Hello, everybody. Buenos dias in Miami. Bienvenidos. I just wanted to welcome everybody to the beautiful Padrón Campus here for Miami-Dade College here in Little Havana. We are incredibly grateful to our friends and partners here at Miami-Dade College for welcoming us back into this space again today. This is our third annual Miami Economic Forum, and all three forums have actually been hosted right here in this space. So we want to say thank you again. We believe that continuity and partnership matters here, and we just wanted to say thank you again for all the serious conversations that are going to happen today about Miami's economic future between the intersection of education, connectivity, and opportunity. The Economic Club of Miami, for those of you who are not aware, was established in 2021. And many of you that were with us at what we call the event that put this club on the map in November 2022 with Ken Griffin, of the founder of Citadel, of course, and former mayor and mayor at that time, Francis Suarez. That was in November of 2022. And it's fitting then that at the conclusion of today's program, we will honor Mayor Francis Suarez with our first ever Miami Economic Leadership Award. It's equally fitting that our lunch keynote is Ken Griffin's colleague, Jim Esposito, the president of Citadel Securities, and he'll be interviewed later here on the stage at the lunch hour with our founding chairman, Jon Hartley. But before I go any further, I do want to thank Jon, along with the entire board of directors of the Economic Club of Miami, including our current chairman, Jeremy Schwartz, our co-founder, Jeb Busch Jr., and also other board members, Carmen Mandrada Cartella and Alex Bonello. So I want to thank them. I'd also like to recognize our 11 advisory board members. They're all listed in your program. I'm not going to list them all off, but I would like to ask for all of those on the advisory board if you can please stand so we can recognize you. Thank you very much, guys. And this event would also not be possible without all the great volunteers that we have. We have about a dozen today, and they represent students, mostly college students from Miami-Dade College, FIU, the University of Miami, and some new ones today from Barry University. That's new for us, along with a handful of high school students as well. So we just want to say thank you. We're really grateful for their energy and professionalism. One of them was here with me yesterday for 8 hours setting this whole place up, so we couldn't do it without our volunteers. In January 2023, I was asked to serve as executive director of the Economic Club of Miami. At the time, I was told we would have about 4 events a year. We had 35 members, and the task was simple: execute the events and grow the membership. Thanks to the support of so many people in this room, we've actually grown substantially over the last 3 years. We now have over 365 members, one for every day of the year. And last year, we hosted 12 events plus this Miami Economic Forum, so quite more than the 4 we were asked to do annually. But that's really good, where it just really shows a sign of growth and a sign of energy that Miami has. If you're here today as a new member, and this is maybe your first event as a new member, I'd like to ask you to stand and be recognized as well. Great, and please stay standing. Please stay standing. I'd like to ask anybody who is here as a member at all to please stand as well. That includes sponsors. Thank you very much. And for those of you who are still seated, I want you to join them in the membership. So next year, I hope everybody who's here in this room will be standing at next year's Miami Economic Forum. If you're not familiar how to join the membership, it's pretty simple. You go to our website, econclubmiami.org. There's a tab there for membership. You apply on the website. Once you're accepted, there's two levels that you can become a member at. Our general membership level is $500 a year, and it includes at least 8 events annually, maybe 12, who knows. And you also get 50% discount on the Miami Economic Forum, and you also get included in our WhatsApp group, which is lots of fun some days, and also in our membership directory. So lots of great benefits. If you go up to the $2,500 level, you get all those benefits, plus you get included in the Miami Economic Forum, no extra charge, and you get to bring a +1 to every member exclusive event throughout the year. In addition, you get invited to 2 private curated dinners that we'll have with special guest speakers with less than 20 people around the table. So I want to thank those who have already joined us at the elite membership level. And the membership and all of our events, they're not just about panels and policy, they're also about community. And I think a lot of community has been formed here with this club. Next month, more than 120 members of the club, including some of their guests, will be joining together at the Miami Open. So we do a lot of fun social things as well. And so it's going to be a really great way to continue to build relationships, even in social environments like that, while we also celebrate some of the great events taking place across our city. And as you'll see throughout today, even though we're still a young organization, the Economic Club of Miami has become a central convening point in this city's economic ecosystem. Since that event we hosted with Ken Griffin in 2022, we've hosted other business titans like Peter Thiel, Michael Saylor, Joe Lonsdale. We've hosted 3 members of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, and we're hosting another one next month. We have also hosted 3 current candidates for the governor of Florida on both sides of the political aisle, among many other people. All of this is reflected in the program in front of you, so you can check some of that out. And we have bigger things planned on the horizon, so we hope you'll join us for what's ahead. On stage today, you're going to hear from leaders representing a lot of institutions, including Miami-Dade College, the University of Miami, Florida International University, the Miami Downtown Development Authority, Emerge Americas, and other major financial institutions like Mercantile Bank, BMO, CGI, and others. You'll also hear from consul generals from Canada, Germany, and Spain, and from voices connected to places as diverse as Serbia and Honduras. One of the core themes today is Miami as a global hub for business, which goes directly to the mission of the Economic Club of Miami. What do we do at the Economic Club of Miami? We convene influential voices for thoughtful dialogue, meaningful connection, and collaboration on the ideas shaping Miami's economic future. But why do we do it? We do it to help shape Miami into a global financial capital, while also ensuring the American dream remains within reach for all. Today clearly reflects the first part of that equation. The agenda and the people represented here show just how global Miami has become. Perhaps we are still in the early days of this city's transformation into a global financial capital, maybe of the United States, maybe even of the world. But what cannot be lost in that success for Miami is the second part of that mission. 66 years ago, my grandparents actually came here. They left Cuba with my father, who was just 7, my uncle, who was just 4, and just blocks away from where we're at right now, they actually found refuge with some American friends. Now, in 1960, there were very few Cubans in these neighborhoods around here. So my grandparents were advised to go to New York. That's where the jobs were. And so they did, and they went there for almost a decade. Less than a decade later, they returned back to this area, and all of a sudden it was called Little Havana. And they returned to a very different Miami. They experienced not only the American dream, that dream of being able to come and live a life of economic mobility, but what I call the Florida dream, and the belief that this country could be a beacon of hope for other places as well, including their native Cuba. And I still believe that that is possible today, and that's what I think our platform also has a lot of conversations to make sure that that American dream remains possible for all. And today, Miami is also a beacon of hope for many other places, including Venezuela. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing from our Venezuelan panelists later this morning. You are quite literally sitting at the center of Miami's ecosystem. These windows behind me are not open, but you can see around the sides of this entire building. The views from this room tell that story to downtown Miami and Brickell, behind us here to Coconut Grove, Southwest, Coral Gables, and of course, just in the streets below in Little Havana. And if you go back into the reception room just outside these doors, you can see 3 major sports stadiums now. You can see, of course, Lone Depot Park, where the Marlins play, and the Hurricanes used to play on that site. And you can also see way back in the distance Hard Rock Stadium, and we've got a brand new stadium opening in 2 months for Inter Miami that you can also see very clearly out those windows. These stadiums remind us that Miami's growth extends beyond finance and into the sports and entertainment economy, which continues to attract global attention. Now, before I close the opening remarks here, I just want to thank some of our annual sponsors, including Mercantile Bank, the Miami Downtown Development Authority, Longbox, and DCI Group. They are what I'd like to call our early believers, perhaps our angel investors. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor like them, please speak with me before you leave today. Grab my business card on the table out there. I'd love to have a conversation to get you more involved. But finally, the person who truly sparked the vision of the Economic Club of Miami before it existed is our founding chairman, Jon Hartley. In the weeks and months after the pandemic in 2020, after seeing so many tech founders and financial investors descend into Miami from Silicon Valley to New York and other places, unsure of where and how to connect with others like them, Jon asked the question, why doesn't Miami have its own economic club? So now looking around this room and the many people we've convened both on stage and off, it's starting to become hard to imagine how Miami doesn't have one. Jon had a vision and it's being realized right now. So you'll see Jon later today on this stage interviewing Jim Esposito. But now I'd like to invite him to the stage and welcome you and help kick off this program. So thank you, Jon.
Well, thank you, Francisco, and thank you for that fantastic intro. Really excited to be here. What an exciting year. This is our third installment of the Miami Economic Forum. We've got a lot planned for you today. It's amazing. This sort of originally was conceived as really an international forum. And so, it's no surprise we've got panels on everything from the UAE to Venezuela to Honduras, Canada, Western Europe. We've got, leaders in finance. We've got Jim Esposito, the Citadel president, the president of Citadel Securities here. A conversation I'll be leading later today. We've got the former mayor Miami, Francis Suarez. Very excited for all these things, as I'm sure many of you are. I'm not going to take up any much more of your time, other than again sort of make this pitch for the Economic Club Miami. We started 5 years ago. We're crushing it in terms of membership. We've passed 350 members. We're very much beginning to enter a period of entering a new capital campaign. If you happen to represent a corporation or work with a corporation that's interested in partnering with us in the future, we would love to speak with you. If you have friends that are interested in becoming members, please encourage them to do so. As many of you who are members here, you can obviously direct your friends to our website. If you aren't a member, you can find information on our website about how to become a member as well. My sort of last pitch for you here is, again, obviously everyone's here, so you're already you've already bought up your tickets for this, but also to promote our next Economic Club Miami event. It's happening on March 26th. I will be interviewing Fed Governor Steve Myron. He is on the FOMC. He's voting on interest rates 8 times a year, and he's going to have an interesting speech, which he can't reveal yet what it's about, but it'll be, I think, very exciting, and it'll be an exciting conversation that we have afterwards. So want to thank you again for coming. I'm going to introduce Francisco back up to the stage. I'll see you later when I interview Jim Esposito around noon, but really want to thank you all for coming. I know a lot of people have traveled a very long way to get here, and we really appreciate you being here. I think it's a very exciting time for Miami, to say the least. And it's amazing how this group continues to grow so quickly, and very excited to see it continue to grow. I think next year I can only imagine how much bigger this group will be. But really want to thank you all for coming and participating in this today. So please feel free to grab either of us or other board members or advisory board members that you see throughout the day. If you're interested in speaking to us more about various opportunities, please feel free to let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Jon. And now I'd like to welcome the president of the campus we're on here, the Padrón Campus, Dr. Oscar Loynaz.
Thank you so much. So this is going to be very brief. I just want to welcome you to Miami-Dade College and the Padrón Campus. This morning, I'm accompanied by our Executive Vice President and Provost, Dr. Malusi Harrison, who will be on the aerospace panel a little bit later on today. This is your home for the day. I hope you enjoy it. It is a wonderful day at Miami-Dade College when we have thought leaders come together to talk about the future, envision what it'll be. And in this campus, for me, I've worked at 4 of Miami-Dade College's 8 campuses, but this one I think has the best view because I get to see Miami every single day, and that inspires us all. And every time I come up here and I look at the city, I see the past when it became Little Havana, and I look at the future. And so wonderful conversations here. I hope you have a wonderful day. And thank you once again for partnering with us and choosing Miami-Dade College as a place for this wonderful conversation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, now we're really going to get the fun started. So I want to welcome all of our panelists for the panel called "Is Miami the Dubai of the Western Hemisphere?" There's a question. There's a question mark. So first, I want to welcome Peter Yared. He's with InCountry AgentCloak. And Peter actually wrote an article 2 years ago on this exact topic, and I said this has to be the topic of a panel. So Peter, come on up here. Also, I want to welcome Michaeljohn Green of the Miami Downtown Development Authority, Christian Busch, who's also a member of the club, as is Peter, and of course, this entire panel actually are members of the club. With one exception, we got to get David Andolfatto become a member. He's the chair of the Economic Club of Miami. Christian is a real estate investment broker as well. So thank you guys. We'll take it away, and Peter, we'll have you we'll have you kick it off for us. You guys all have microphones here, and there's also waters, by the way, for the character.
Oh, wonderful! Thanks for hosting us here, and thank you to MDC for having us. And yeah, this is an incredible view. And yes, I did write this article a couple of years ago because I moved here 5 years ago, like many people, and thank you for welcoming us into your haven here. And, 3 years ago, if you remember, there was a bunch of people who came during the pandemic, and then there's a bunch of people who left, who were mainly younger, like in their 20s and 30s, and people were freaking out, is Miami ending? But I happened to notice there are a lot of people my age that were moving here. I'm in my 50s, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I've seen this trend before because I've been in and out of Dubai for years, and it seemed like we were starting to attract older, already successful people. We're starting to aggregate here even more, and then there's something natural that follows that. So I wrote it sort of as a hypothetical. It seems to be happening, but we're going to have a conversation about it. And so could each of you please introduce yourselves and how you're involved in Miami and when you came here and what you do? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christian Busch. I'm jumped on the Miami train 5 years ago, early 2021, and I represent my former home, New York City, today, where I spent about 20 years. And I think you summarized it perfectly. Miami is a great place for people who've already accomplished something in life. Hopefully, we can make it an amazing place for young people to accomplish something, so they generate the next generation of companies. And Dubai, I think, is an apt comparison, and looking forward to the panel.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My name is David Andolfatto. I'm presently the chair of the economics department at the Miami Herbert Business School at the University of Miami. Originally from Vancouver, so I guess I'm a representative of that country. But I came through St. Louis, spent about 13 years at the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, came here in 2022. So I'm a relative newcomer and having a great time. Looking forward to the panel.
How's it going, everybody? Thank you guys all for being here. I'm looking forward to this conversation. My name is MJ Green. I am the Chief of Economic Development and Strategy for the Miami DDA. I moved to Miami about 8 years ago from Seattle. I was born in St. Louis. The DDA is a quasi-governmental entity really spurred by the state of Florida and the city of Miami to charge economic development in Brickell, the central business district, which most people would call core downtown, the arts and entertainment district, and a little bit of Edgewater. I was recently the Deputy Director of Economic Development for Miami-Dade County. Spent a host of my career in wealth management and started a bunch of different funds that lend money to minority entrepreneurs. And although I think that Dubai is great, and I think anyone who has had a great trip there and enjoyed themselves, none of my comments go against you enjoying your trip, and it could have been a great place. But I think that Miami is Miami, and I think that there are many reasons why Miami is successful and will continue to be successful. But I think looking to be Dubai and a lot of older folks moving to Miami is what Miami was. The excitement and things that are around Miami, and it not being a home of early retirement of those individuals who've maybe already made their money, with all due respect, is what is going to continue to charge and put the fire in this place. The companies, the businesses that move here, they need employees. Those employees are not going to be someone who has already made their money, most likely, and is looking to enjoy the wonderful lifestyle that Miami has to offer. I think that there are things that we can learn from everywhere. I think that there are pieces that we can take from Miami, but I'm actually seeing more of Dubai trying to get companies and businesses that have been successful in Miami to move to Dubai. So I think this is going to be a really great conversation, and I couldn't be more bullish about the future of Miami.
Wonderful. Yeah, I mean, that is the thesis. Once you get a bunch of already successful people aggregated in one place, what follows? And Dubai is a really good example of that. And Christian, you're sort of on the leading edge of this because you see who's shopping for real estate. Where are people coming from? And what is Miami? I hear people say, hey, I moved to Miami, and then they're in Boca. So what is Miami? What's the goal?
So as a New Yorker, Boca is kind of like going upstate. So we're definitely not considering Boca is lovely and it's a beautiful place to go to sleep, but it's not Miami.
They have a Motec now.
So when I moved down here, I've always invested in real estate, and I have a brokerage business in Florida and New York. And when I moved down here, I got to learn all the areas. And as you all know, it's a super diverse market, and I'm in the age where people care about kids. And so I look at a lot of stuff in Coral Gables and Coconut Grove, and those markets are doing really well. I love the Key. I live in Key Biscayne, and there's definitely a lot more demand for high quality housing than there's supply, and that's at all price points. That's at the $500,000 price point, which is kind of starter in Miami these days, all the way up to the $10 million home. There's just not that much quality supply. So if anyone wants to do fix and flips and you want to actually get your hands dirty, I think that's a great idea. Very difficult to do, though. The people that I see coming to town are from the traditional feeder markets, aka New York, New Jersey, tri-state area, but also increasingly from other markets where politicians have sort of extreme left to center left leanings and are introducing all sorts of new hurdles for people, right? The billionaire tax in California. I met a guy this week who was looking to move from Maryland because the DC region is looking to increase capital gains, increase local taxes for people who've already made some money. State of Washington, Chicago. So I've met a lot of people from different places who are considering making the move. And then don't forget the traditional big two, South America. Whenever there's a crisis somewhere in South America, Miami wins because all the capital tries to come to Miami. And there's plenty of countries that there will be another crisis. Maybe just started this week. We'll see in Mexico. And then my fellow Europeans, I'm originally German. The Brits are fed up with all the things that are going on in politics, and other nationalities are also considering making the move over to Miami. So overall, there's a ton of interest coming to the city, people from all different walks of life and places, and it's a dynamic environment.
Amazing. And Michael, as you mentioned, we need to get more companies moving here. Palantir just moved here. In Dubai, they set up nutty things like Internet City, and then you have like Google and Microsoft all around a little lake. What are we doing here in Miami? Who's coming? Is it startups? Is it big companies? Who do you see coming? Who are you trying to get?
I mean, a little bit of every. I'll say one thing first. We talked about the people that are coming here. You talked about some of the political change across America. And I think that people would say this statement, welcome to the free state of Florida, right? No one has ever said, welcome to the free country of Dubai. But I think that to answer your question, there are a host of different companies here. The most exciting thing that we have going on in the moment is the diversity. Miami was a long time known for its diversity in people. I think now we are starting to see diversity in business. I think there's a host of different opportunities. Fintech, financial services, and professional services will continue to grow here. You see that in the Palantir, you see that in Citadel. But I think the most exciting thing is that when they make those announcements, it takes time for those companies and those individuals to move here, for people to uproot their lives, and great folks like the folks on the rest of this panel help them do that. And so we want to see them continue to come. Miami was once known as just the gateway to Latin America, and those Latin American business and business people, businessmen and women will continue to move here. But now more than ever, I'm here seeing companies from the UK. FC Barcelona just made Miami their domestic U.S. headquarters. So companies from around the world are looking at Miami because you get this awesome opportunity to, one, be in America and everything that you're able to access by being in America. You get all of the Caribbean, all of Latin America, but then also, too, more Europeans, Israelis, all of the rest of the world is kind of really moving here for it to be this global hub. We need to continue to focus on creating an environment where people can raise their families. We need to continue to add additional schools, but we also do have great schools. We are sitting in a great school that has provided education to thousands and thousands of people at an affordable rate that mostly, I would argue, are focused a bit more on a middle class education and empowering them to be able to do so. And I think the work of Miami-Dade College, FIU, the University of Miami, and the schools around it will continue to propel us so that when these companies move here, it isn't just the CEO and their executive team, it is their whole team, that the jobs and the individuals that come from those colleges are able to work here. So I think that the future is immensely bright, but Miami's business diversity will begin to match its diversity in people. And I think that that is going to be a really special moment in Miami's time and its trajectory.
Amazing. And speaking of that, David, you were with the St. Louis Fed for a long time. Like, how can we handle the macro trends here when a ton of people move to one place at one time? How do you set policies so that it remains affordable? You know, people aren't squeezed out and people can be lifted up into the success.
Well, one thing to point out is this trend is not necessarily a new one. I mean, from the macro perspective, I'm a macro person, so I was asked to provide macro perspectives. The migration to the Sun Belt has been going on for a long time. Really a post-World War II phenomenon with the advent of the highway system and the blessed invention of the air conditioning. And recently this migration pattern has been accelerated for the usual reasons that people often cite: business-friendly environment, relatively favorable tax jurisdictions. Of course, the geography is still very attractive, and just the lifestyle choices, and also the opportunity to remote work. It's kind of interesting, though, that the population growth here, I was looking at some of the numbers, is really being driven by international migration. Actually, if you take a look at net domestic migration out of Miami-Dade, it's actually negative, actually losing population, which suggests that many of the incumbents are finding, more attractive to move on the West Coast, perhaps. But this is more than being offset by the migration, and primarily from Latin America. And they're being attracted for all the usual reasons, the opportunities that the region affords, and of course the massive Latin American networks of the diaspora from Latin America. So I think, in regard to kind of like issues of, how do we manage such a rapid change in a fair and equitable, make sure that everybody's has access. I mean, I'd encourage actually people to kind of think less in terms of fairness and more in terms of enlightened self-interest, kind of which encompasses the idea of not only kind of fairness, say on moral grounds, but also it's in our interest collectively to make sure that everybody succeeds, because we see what happens when we're going to be talking to people from Venezuela, for example. We see what happens when wealth is too concentrated and people perceive that the opportunities aren't there. This leads to instability. And so what we want to develop here is something sustainable, and the way we do that is to ensure that everybody has an opportunity and has an opportunity for affordable housing. So I think that that's something we can never lose sight of. Celebrate success. That's the American way, but let's bring everybody, all our fellow Americans, on board with us.
I really appreciate that point, because I think looking at the data, the DDA puts out a host of different reports. For the most part, Miami, when you're talking about who are we losing, we are losing people that have been here 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and they are leaving to the lack of affordability. They're moving to Broward County, and then they are jumping over to Orlando. I don't think that there are that many fans of Disney. They're moving because of affordability. And so I think that your point and the way that you articulated, I am definitely going to steal that, because it is hugely important as we all move forward to make a Miami for all, not necessarily a Miami for the few. And we all came here, I think, because of the Miami for all that was built for people all before we came here. Both of us, or all of us, are relatively new to Miami as far as in Miami's history. And so I just wanted to double down on that point, because I think you articulated so well, but it's really, really important. 50% of the people that work for Miami-Dade County live in Broward County. They don't even live in the county in which they work in.
Well, that really brings up a good point because very similar to Dubai, all the highways here are parking lots. And, we're fortunate to come here early. And, but, Christian, is this affecting where people live? Are they going to Broward? Where are people orienting? And then can transit help? Like, we just bought one of these Teslas that drives itself. I did not drive myself here. And so what can we do to sort of make it so even if people expand out to Broward, it's one big megapolis and people can get around?
Yeah, I think you're touching on two key things: transportation/traffic and affordability. And maybe I'll start with the affordability. I've looked at a bunch of properties, either for myself as an investor or with other people that are in the affordable housing segment, call it Class B minus, Class C housing. And it's not pretty what you can get in Miami for less than $1,500, $1,800 per apartment. There's very little truly affordable housing. And the builders all focus on the luxury segment because that's where they can make higher margins. The Live Local Act has been passed, and that should, in theory, boost construction of affordable units. There's a new bill in the Florida Senate right now that talks about making granny flats by default legal, which would be great because then you could build a second house on your lot and rent that out to someone. So I think the state has recognized that and the community has recognized it, but there's still room to go. And in terms of traffic, I just paid for Tesla self-driving because it makes driving a little less painful. But traffic is pretty bad, and public transport is still pretty close to zero. And although I love the Bright Line and I'm a big fan, I hope it survives because the occupancy is not that high. And overall, public transport is an issue. So I live in Key Biscayne, and every morning there's a ton of traffic going onto the Key because there's no housing in Key Biscayne that is affordable to the people who actually come to work there day to day. And then that's pretty much the same situation across most areas of Miami. So I understand why people go to Broward, but a lot of the jobs aren't up there. And a lot of the opportunities are being created further south.
Well, that brings up a good point. Is it the Gold Coast? That's what we're calling it now. Is this a region now? And David, what are you seeing in terms of becoming the capital of capital? Is it all the way from Palm Beach down to here? Are we just going to get more and more financial firms? And and is that what's that going to do with New York? And are we going to be a megapolis of capital?
Yeah, well, is it a corridor? I think this was in part perhaps spurred by my question. We were talking about Miami, and I asked the panel, like, what do we mean by Miami? I mean, do we mean the city? Do we mean the county? Do we mean the broader region? And for me, I think actually when I was reflecting on that, I was thinking of Miami as more of kind of an idea. It was like the dynamism of a new frontier and founders and entrepreneurs. In that frontier spirit, I think, is the defining characteristic of the entire corridor. I don't see so much competition as complementarities there. In terms of the capital of capital, I really love that phrase. I just came across it recently. I think, I guess it depends a little bit on what we mean by that. I mean, if we mean, potentially displacing New York, say, as the financial hub of the global financial center, I don't think that that's in the cards anytime soon. But if we're talking about, say, a hub for the Americas, say, private equity or family offices or cross-border wealth management, I think, yeah. I mean, we see this happening. I think there's a very real possibility of this happening. And I think we can see this clustering happening. I think there's no question about that. For me, as always, and I sound like a broken record, I think we can never take our eye off the ball of what will sustain this going forward, because making a great city, it's a great accomplishment. I think we're there. We're going to make it greater, but there is a question of what will keep it great. I mean, you're from St. Louis. I spent 13 years in St. Louis. You might know, if you don't know your history, St. Louis was one of the world's prime cities in the world at the beginning of the 20th century. Really one of the jewels.
There were more people in St. Louis than there were in New York City at a point in time.
And, during COVID, I had the opportunity to ride my bike throughout the city, in part because my wife would kick me out to get me out of the house. But, my jaw just dropped to the ground when I saw the infrastructure just laying there, the ghost of the city that was. We can never take success for granted. That's what I learned from St. Louis.
Just to add on St. Louis, one of my first jobs when I graduated college was in North St. Louis. A gentleman had bought 700 parcels of land. Some of them had houses on them in North St. Louis. The lack of jobs and industry that left is what really crippled St. Louis. The city gave him the adjacent lot. So he had almost 2,000 parcels of land. That's an entire swath of the city where no one wants to live. No one wants to be there. We don't want to see that happen in Miami. I think that I would, push this on everyone in the audience to truly think Tri-County and probably Quad County, because I don't want to live out our friends in Monroe and the Keys, because I think the Keys is just a beautiful place that everybody should visit and enjoy. But thinking Tri-County is probably our way to win. West Palm Beach, Broward County, and Miami-Dade County. The opportunity for single-family homes really only exist in Broward County and West Palm Beach. If you're talking about brand new net single family homes, every single family home that you look to build in Miami, you're basically knocking down an old home. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but the opportunity for sprawl and growth is in Broward County. We desperately need to build commercial and job facilities in some of these other places. Everyone can't come to the DDA district to work. The DDA district does have all of your mass transit, if that is a place that you're looking to work, and most of it being free. But 80% of the people that live in Homestead drive this direction for work. That causes the traffic. And you see when you're on the highway, there's a stark difference on 95 and US 1 during rush hour. Everyone is going one direction. No one is going the other direction. Putting job, industry, commercial facilities, there's more cranes in Miami-Dade County than there are in the entire state of California. But 65 to 70% of those cranes are in the DDA district, AKA the east side of 95. We can see all of those buildings over there without any obstruction, because we desperately need more density on the other side of 95. And although as the Chief of Economic Development for the DDA and those big buildings is where the majority of my time is focused on, I think that everyone in this audience and the influence that they have to continue to build Miami up is building bigger and better throughout the entire county and working with our partners in our other counties to continue the success.
Well, following up on that, we still want to attract more. So do you think that Miami can become a tech hub? It looked like it for a minute. Now maybe not. Now Palantir's here. I can tell you Dubai kind of failed at this. They're good at being the HQ for Middle East and Africa, large companies. I think you have an opinion, Christian?
So I spent most of my career working tech and media in New York and partially in San Francisco. And I love the story of the tech hub. When I moved here 5 years ago, there was this moment where there was like Miami Tech Hub 1.0 and that kind of fizzled. And since then, a bunch of companies have moved here or have announced moving here. But I still hear from a bunch of the tech founders, the early guys, even companies that are worth a lot of money, like MoonPay. Most of them have a really hard time hiring here. If they find people, they have to import a lot of people from other places in the U.S., sometimes from abroad. And for this to become a major tech hub, what Miami really needs are 2 or 3 really large exits of homegrown companies. There are some good examples of that are coming, but they're not necessarily tech. True Bar sold, like a granola bar company, sold for $175 million. There are some other good exits, but there's not that one moment where there's an Uber or a Google or a Palantir being created in Miami. And I think until that happens, it'll be tough to build the ecosystem.
So I think my first question would be, what is a tech company? I think every company is a tech-enabled company, right? And so I think that if we broaden the scope a little bit, that might help us out. I think that, yes, we do need the exits and the unicorns, but I lived in Seattle. I worked for Microsoft. I have one friend that has worked for Microsoft 16 different times. He left and he worked for startups and tried different projects 16 different times. That's really, really important, because most times, most companies are built with your friends or a colleague that you sat next to. You leave that company and you go try something. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. When it doesn't work, the best possible thing is that someone can leave or that company fail or whatever it is, the idea doesn't work, and they go back and get a job. In Miami, we don't have, hopefully, I think with Palantir and some of the other things coming, hopefully the Google office grows, hopefully the Microsoft office grows and other companies, so that those engineers can leave and go work on a project. It failed, and in less than a month, they get a job and their life hasn't been affected and they don't have to do a national search. They're doing a local search. I think also, too, one of the great things about Miami is that we truly try our best to move at the speed of business. But that is also pretty fast. Seattle, Silicon Valley were not built in 3 years. And if we thought that we were going to do it in 3 years, we're basically setting ourselves up for failure. I think that we have to continue to move down that charge. We have to continue to look at great companies from across the world and look for them to move here. We have to continue to support the startups that are here. There's no better place in the world for a Latin American or diverse founder to raise capital than Miami-Dade County or South Florida. That is a really, really important thing. The founders that are in all of Latin America are looking to move here to be able to access that capital. As more capital comes here, whether that's Citadel or any of the other Millennium, whatever other companies, I think that makes an awesome opportunity. As people get older and they retire who are successful, that's an awesome opportunity for those investing in the company. So I think that, similar to how you said, not taking your eye off the ball, I think that because we didn't become Silicon Valley last week, that doesn't mean that we don't try to become Silicon Valley 2 years from now. And there's a lot of work that we have to do 2 years from now. Our institutions with the great leaders that we have here, there are kids that will graduate, that will be some of the employees for some of these startups. And so I think that we just continue to move forward with a feverish pace in hoping and working that it will happen. And I believe that it will happen.
Well, you brought up a good point. LATAM people, LATAM founders, European founders, Israeli founders, we are in a global fight for talent. Dubai, it has its flaws, but it has a very flexible visa system. So do you guys think like O1s are working adequately to attract the right talent? Do we have a support system here to get people in the country? I know we have like consulates here. Like, are you seeing this, Christian? Are you seeing Michael, Dave? Do you have any comments on the visa situation? Are O1s working?
Yeah, I mean, O1, I guess, it's good to have, better than nothing, I guess. That permits us, I guess, to get very, very top people here. But I mean, I would caution, against, thinking about, what makes a successful ecosystem isn't really just built on a few superstars. It really builds on depth. And I was kind of struck by the comment of how it's difficult to hire, to recruit. So the visa situation, that's going to create pain in the short run and well. But on the other hand, I think that we could view this as an opportunity. This is a little bit of a wake-up call, in fact. Why can't we produce this talent locally? My understanding is, we're trying at Miami Herbert desperately, believe me. But also, we do have great vocational programs here as well. The colleges are great. But my understanding, and I caution because I'm a relative newcomer, but my understanding is that they're doing a great job, these vocational schools, but there's just not enough. They're not producing enough relative to the demand that's here. And one question I naturally have is like, why? Why not? The change has been rapid. It takes time to adjust, of course, but I think this is a challenge for policymakers. And I think as far as Miami is concerned, since public education, I guess, is really handled at the county level, this is going to call for some concerted coordination between city and county. And I would love to see that happen.
I think that you bring up some great points, but Microsoft has been putting computers in schools since the early 90s. And that took a lot of time, and that took people, grew the ecosystem. I think that we have great universities, but I think that, sometimes I think, Miami is, again, this feeling or this idea. And we forget Miami is in the deep, 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 deep South. We're as far as you go. That typically means wage suppression. We've seen great growth in the wages in Miami over the past, I'd say 5 or 6 years, right? But if you look at the educational system and how difficult it is to change things, then things do take time. A long time ago, if you graduated from Miami, you were more likely to make more money going somewhere else. I think that we are all here at the Economic Club because we probably care about making some amount of money. But that is changing, but it takes time. So you now are seeing people come back to Miami because they're able to get a similar wage to where they were before in the past. But the wages need to continue to grow. The affordable housing issue is only an issue of wages. The cost to build has continued to grow every single year. Wages are basically stagnant since my dad was born, right? Or little growth. We need to continue to see that grow, but I think that we also have to give our universities time, our people time to kind of make that turn. Again, it just doesn't happen overnight. I fully believe in all of the universities and the university leadership, but also it's at the grade school, high school, and kindergarten level, and making those investments there for some of the companies that are in the room. If you really want to see that happen, and you really want to see tech grow, obviously support Miami-Dade College, but also pick a grade school and support those kids and put those computers in their hand. That's going to have a reverberating effect that is going to multiply many times over. And so again, I think it's our eyes, and we are looking in the right direction. I think that it takes a little bit of time. And then I think that we do need some slight legislation changes that will make it easier for us to be able to put new schools in certain areas. And I think that there's some slight tweaks there to where we can expand the amount of schools that we do have.
Amazing. Well, one last question for you all. Where are we going to be in 2030 in your vision? And who's the competition for Miami? Or is it Dubai? Is it New York? What's going on? What do you think? Let's start down there with you, Christian.
2030 is pretty soon.
Before you know it.
So I don't think we're all sitting in the robo-taxi and the AI does our job yet. That'll take a few more years. I think Miami's going to be further ahead. There'll be more interesting opportunities created. There will be challenges, and some people will move away. I think overall, it's only 4 years from now. I don't see any major changes. I think the two topics we didn't bring up in detail are, one, on the visa front, at least the current uncertainty around the H-1Bs, around the O-1s, deters a lot of people from coming here. Also, my European friends and family, they don't really want to come to the U.S. right now because they're afraid that they'll be stopped by the border. And that we'll see how that plays out during the World Cup. And opening up, the U.S. being more open will help Miami. And I think overall, the other big thing I'll throw out as a flag, and that will affect real estate and everything else, is the Tri-County area. They got to work together on addressing the water levels. We haven't talked about that, but there are attempts, but there are not that many solutions. And I don't want to take my golf cart into a lake when I drop my kids off at school.
Well, we have the Netherlands to look forward to, first, but I think 2030, that's not too far away. Time is a way of slipping by. So I don't think we're not going to see the trends that are presently in place that are driving growth. They're not going to reverse anytime soon. So by 2030, I expect Miami's going to be wealthier. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be better connected globally. But I think what concerns me more is what follows. As I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I'm a big proponent of sustainability. Like, we can never take our eye off the ball of what's going to sustain the success that I know is coming. I can see it right now. What's going to sustain the success going forward? And I think kind of see two paths here. One, we take a proactive approach to dealing with issues of housing affordability, training local talent, making sure that people have opportunity, and the cheapest way to provide safe neighborhoods is to provide economic opportunity, to give people a stake in the community. That's the cheapest way to provide that. We can choose that path, or we could choose a more complacent path and kind of let these stresses compound and kind of just ride the wave and see where the chips might fall. I certainly hope that we choose the former path.
I think my two, panelists said it pretty well. I would say, I think that Miami continues in its success and trajectory. I think that we should learn from every place in the world that's doing something well. We should continue to pull from the best and brightest and attract people here. I look a lot at Singapore. Singapore also is a financial capital of its own, but it also has a pretty substantial middle class and housing that I think that we can look at and really replicate for individuals to really be able to be here. I think that all of the new people that have moved here, my request is that you got involved in the economic club, and I think that is amazing, and I think that you continue to push this organization forward. But I also think that you should get involved in other things, and you must vote. Sea level rise, I think the environment, no matter what you think about it, if you ask anybody that's lived here during Andrew, that was a major change, right? And so I think that we want to continue to have this wonderful, beautiful place. A lot of the things that attracted people here with the quality of life, which is directly correlated to the environment. And so I think taking care of that, taking care of the people that are here, and really just working at a feverish pace, but with and in lockstep with the community, I think that will continue to make Miami successful. And so I don't necessarily think, Miami cools off. I think that there will be ebbs and flows and nothing stays hot for forever. But our trajectory and the tailwinds that we have, I don't know if I've ever seen that before. And we all have an amazing moment to put our fingerprint and our imprint on a major American city during its peak moment. I don't know the age of everyone in this room, but I think most of us have never had that opportunity before in our lifetimes. And so I encourage everybody to get involved. I encourage everybody to invest in their community. And I think that if we all do that, we'll find the success that we want.
Well, thank you all. Great commentary. My prediction, as I wrote 2 years ago, there's going to be 2 hubs, one for the Eastern Hemisphere, which is Dubai, one for the Western Hemisphere, which will be Miami, where we are right now. And I have one more prediction. St. Louis has 1 arch, and by 2030, we're going to finish our 6 arches on the bridge over Biscayne Boulevard. Thank you all.
Here.